Hi, my name is Sergio Perez and I am a high school student from Tech Milenio. And in this video, I'm gonna talk about the Cold War. The Cold War was a period of geopolitical tension between the United States and the Soviet Union and their respective allies, the Western Bloc and the Eastern Bloc, which began following the World War II. This period is generally considered to span the 1947 Truman Doctrine to the 1991 dissolution of the Soviet Union. Some other important events, like the Vietnam War, the Soviet-Afghan War, the Korean War, the Sputnik crisis, and the fall of Berlin Wall, are some things that happened during this period of time. The concept of Cold War is something we need to understand. The term of Cold War is used because there was no large-scale fighting directly between the two superpowers, but they each supported major regional conflicts known as proxy wars. The conflict was mainly based around the ideological and geopolitical struggle for global influence by these two superpowers. This because their temporary alliance and victory against the Nazi Germany in 1945. So in order to understand this war, we have to understand also the ideas that they followed. In other words, the difference between capitalism and socialism. So let's take a look to it. Let's start with capitalism. Also called free market economy or free enterprise economy, is an economic system dominant in the Western world since the breakup of feudalism, in which most means of production are privately owned and production is guided and income distributed largely through the operation of markets. The one who proposed this system was Adam Smith. His ideas for a free market open to the world to capitalism. Capitalism is often thought as an economic system in which private actors own and control property in accord with their interests, as we said before. That is why worldwide companies that sell products exist. Now let's take a look at socialism, a social and economic doctrine that calls for public rather than private ownership or control of property and natural resources. According to the socialist view, individuals do not live or work in isolation but live in cooperation with one another. The Communist Manifesto was written by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels in 1948, just before the revolution of 1948 swept Europe, expressing what they termed scientific socialism. A socialist economy offers a collective ownership, usually through a state-controlled agency, worker cooperative, or outright state ownership with delegation to representatives. Socialist market economy generally discourage private ownership. Now that we have analyzed these two concepts, I'm going to show you an interview I did to someone about this topic to see how they perceived it. This also might help to understand more the concept of Cold War.
During the Cold War, the main leaders were the Soviet Union and the United States. Because they have different ideologies. One were communism and the other one were capitalism. So they were in a fight for which ideology was best. The Cold War took place in Asia, some parts of Europe, Latin America, and also some parts of Africa. Well, the general idea that the public got in here in the American continent was that the communism was bad, and the way to do the things was capitalism. So, because all the propaganda and all the media stuff that they produced in those years. Well, I think that they had nuclear weapons, and they were always threatening about launching missiles to the other country, and that was it was called the Cold War because they didn't launch any missile.
As a conclusion, we can say that the Cold War was something that revolutionized the world. Thanks to this historical event is why we live like this as a society. Now we are so used to free market and capitalism that we can't imagine a world of communism. Both economic systems have good things and bad things. However, as I said earlier, we are used to living in a capitalism world that we cannot imagine living in a communist world. But this doesn't mean that capitalism is the best and communism has everything wrong with it. I believe that having a society with both good aspects of each system will be something that will be good for everyone. And that's all for the video. Thank you for watching and see you next time.